unbelievably, this is why it matters about who you elect to local government, state government, and how much power the crazies get. There is a socialist councillor on the city of Capitol Hill in Seattle, which is part of Washington, which is right up in the northeast, right up in the west east, west north. Anyway, it's in America. And right now there is a occupation where what started as a protest has become taking over police stations. This councillor wants more police stations to be stormed by normal people, not just to defund, but to take them over. This stuff is an occupation. Dan Springer is a reporter with Fox News, and I had a chance to talk to him about exactly what's been happening here, including what the hell is this so-called autonomous zone?
Well, Paul, we are a few blocks away from what they're calling the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and it's a 7-block area in the Capitol Hill area of Seattle. It's a mixture of apartments and businesses, and also a Seattle Police Department, a precinct, the East Precinct. And 3 days ago, the Seattle Police Department vacated that precinct, and what's left in its wake is a large protest. And there are several hundred people there right now, and they've basically taken over the streets, and they have blockaded the 6 different entrances to get into that area. And so you got speakers and all that stuff, and there's food that's being handed out to people, a lot of tents as well. There's also some armed guards out there, and there's been some reports that they have been taking some money, asking for money from people before they let them in, also getting their ID. And there's been reports of frisking people as they go in. So the Seattle police, and there are no city officials anywhere near there, so they have completely ceded this area to the protesters.
Matt, this is a frightening example about when the kooks get in, and the kooks then are in a position to help advise the council, who of course employ the police, about what force you do or don't use. They're storming and stealing buildings.
Well, Paul, it's extremely concerning because this certainly has parallels with effectively a revolutionary type element of a commune or barricades that have occurred in many cities over our own history, not in recent times. And they're always the outpouring of a fifth column in a society, a group of people who don't support the broader civilization. We've seen this movement emerge through identity politics over the last decade or so, and it's been a little amusing at times, but it's still only a minority of people. But it's something we must push back on because it's trying to undermine the very central tenets of our society, that we're all individuals and should be judged as such. This identity politics is tribal in nature, it's divisive, and it actually generates the kind of bigotry and prejudice that these people are ostensibly trying to campaign against. But it divides people and it leads to situations like this. So there has to be a forceful push back against this kind of politics, especially here in this country, to make sure that we don't end up with scenes like that in our own nation anytime soon.
Well, as I said, back to Dan Springer, who I was talking to earlier in the day from Fox News, about this being more of an occupation, not a protest. Someone press play.
It's looking like an occupation. They look like they're there for the long haul. We see lots of tents. We see people who have set up like a food co-op where people are bringing in food and passing it out to people. It does look like they're in there for the long haul. They're talking about being in there for the long haul. They have a presence there 24 hours. And we don't really know how this is going to end. I mean, Seattle police say that they do eventually want to go back into that precinct, but honestly, they haven't said how or when. We have reached out to the mayor's office, and they have not responded to our questions about how this thing ends. So more occupation than protest right now. Certainly a lot of speeches, and they're still rallying for Black Lives Matter, but it does get the feel now of something that is more than a protest and more like an occupation.
Yeah, Bronwyn, this is frightening. It is honestly frightening that right now in American City there's not a protest, there's an occupation of not one building, but 6 city blocks. The main one they've overtaken is the police station, and they're setting up shop. There are reports of people with guns patrolling this area. They think that they've just stolen a city to keep it for themselves.
Correct, Paul. They are revolutionaries who use destruction and force and killing, ultimately. And this is opposed to people who want to develop their society which is based on understanding, which comes from learning and knowledge. But the problem is this: revolutions are the same throughout the eons, whether it's the French Revolution or the Russian Revolution or the Cambodian Revolution. They all start out wanting to destroy the existing society and thereby think that their utopian dream can be raised from it. And it's very real, and we can't kid ourselves that these people aren't dangerous within us, and we have to combat it. And we have to combat it at every level. We have to support our civilization. We have to support and stand up for our values. We have to be strong about saying that the people who have done things through the Enlightenment, who've given us a way of thinking and a way of learning, is the right way to go, and not be browbeaten by the subversives who want to say that they deny their own country and they deny their own origins, they deny what we believe in is good and proper and gives people and individuals freedom. These are collectives. They want the power. They want to see you the equivalent, or us the equivalent of slaves, with a cave, a bit of meat and something to wear. This is not the sort of society we want, and if we're not prepared to fight for it, we'll lose it.